What's good, YouTube? Crown Jewel from Crown Jewel Boxing, back with a gem. Shout out to everybody that's been rocking with me since day one. Shout out especially to the channels, the bigger channels that have allowed me to come onto their panels and have shown me love in their various videos. I wanted to start off this one by showing love, or reciprocating the love I received, and let you guys know I appreciate you. Those guys being YSM Sports Media has looked out big time for me. Appreciate you. Manager Marty, my guy, you know how we rock. Knockout Boxing 86 TV, KO, always 100 with me. Salute. Dean, by any means, who I actually met when I was watching the Gervonta Tank Davis Frank Martin fight. Good guy. Hopefully we get to get on and do something soon. You guys, like I said, I hope I didn't forget anybody. Have been, you know, very respectful, cordial, courteous, you know what I mean, and receiving of me in this YouTube space. I just wanted to take time to salute, you know what I mean, pay my respects to you guys and let you guys know I appreciate you and I appreciate your content. I oftentimes are on you guys' channels, not only to chime in and comment, but to just listen because I actually enjoy your content. So salute to all y'all. Now let's get to why we're here. Big news yesterday in the lightweight division. For years, there's been a narrative that Gervonta Tank Davis was ducking Vasil High-Tech Lomachenko, didn't want to fight him. I've never believed that, to be honest. Um, I've always maintained that, Tank wasn't in a position to fight him when the, fight was being discussed before. Once he was in a position to make his own fights, which we all know he's doing now, and took more control of his career, the fight was on the horizon. And in fact, it was Vasil Lomachenko who backed out of negotiations. We all know it's been widely reported now through his manager by saying that he's just not in the mood, and even tens of millions of dollars, couldn't put him in the mood. I've never, ever, ever, ever. Hopefully, it's something that's lost in translation because I've never heard. Excuse me. I've never heard a fighter, let alone a world class fighter, turn down a fight because they're not in the mood. That's just something I'm not used to hearing. So, with that being said, though, I don't want to harp too much on that. You know, what I mean, the reality is Lomachenko's a duck. He didn't want that smoke. He's seen something in that Frank Martin fight, and in Tank Davis right now that he don't want no parts of, and it's obvious because he was in the mood when it was a chance to go get a title from a underachieving, less than A level George Kambosos. He was even willing to go into his backyard and take the title. So you was in a mood not too long ago. What changes that you don't want Tank? Forget about that. What's next for Tank? A lot of my guys, including KO, Dean, may be mad at me when I say this. And trust me when I say it. It pains me to say this. But Shakur Stevenson is probably not the best option for Tank Davis next. Would it be the fight in a perfect world, if I had my choice, would it be the fight that would be next? Absolutely. I know you guys feel that way as well. But the reality is it probably will not be next. And the reason it will not be next, and I have to be honest, like I said, I'm from Jersey. I'm a fan of Shakur's. I'm a fan of Tank's. But I have to go on and be honest and say why actually Williams Zepeda makes more sense for Tank Davis than at this time Shakur Stevenson does. One being, they're very similar in popularity. Um, Zepeda's last fight was at the Toyota Center in Toronto, where he sold about 11,000 some tickets. Nothing to sneeze at. Shakur's last fight a couple weeks ago here in Newark, New Jersey, he sold a little over 9,000 tickets, so they're very comparable there. Most of both of their fights have been in ballrooms up to this point, but the difference is Williams Zepeda is a much more fan-friendly fighter, number one. So I think the build up to the fight, he has a 90-something% knockout ratio too, being 31-0 with I think 27 or 28 knockouts. So there will be plenty of highlights to build that fight. I think the casuals will latch onto it because they actually believe he may have a chance or more of a chance to beat Tank than Shakur would. I'm not saying your avid boxer watchers, people who have an educated opinion on boxing. Most of us understand that Shakur is a very, very, very tough fight for anybody, even Gervonta Tank Davis. But the casual fan is going to see Williams Zepeda's knockout percentage, and that's going to draw him in number one. Number two, Shakur and Tank are basically pulling from the same fan pool. I mean, you may have a couple fans that may like one more than they like the other, but pretty much everybody that's going to watch a Tank fight is probably going to watch a Shakur fight. That's a real boxing fan. But Tank has much more casual fans. Now, the change is William Zepeda has a whole country behind him. We know how Mexicans rock with their fighters. Like you said, he just had 11,000 seat sellout in Toronto, Canada, at the beginning of this month. And we know if a Mexican is fighting against an elite or a high level fighter like Gervonta Tank Davis, that Mexican fan base is going to tune in. Another thing we know, Al Heyman through Mayweather has been very, very privy to, or it's been habitual with him to place his marquee black fighters against Hispanic fighters because it's a lot easier to sell. Those fights usually do really well, i.e., Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, and many other fights. You've seen it with Tank. People were complaining they want to match Tank against Latin fighters because those Latin fighters come with, a ready-made fan base already. You know what I mean? And I mean, in a business sense, who could knock that? If I get a chance to put my guy in there, my marquee guy in there with a guy that's going to have a whole country behind him and generate a lot more money, why wouldn't I do it? So I think for those reasons, the fact that Zepeda versus Tank produces more money, it's going to bring more eyes to the sport. And I think it's going to be more intriguing to the casuals. I know Knockout was talking about how, the press conference will be lit for Tank versus Shakur because there's no language barrier. Two English-speaking black Americans, both of them kind of from the hip-hop generation. Both of them aren't strangers to trash talk. And he was saying how he thought that would make for a crazy buildup. Yeah, on those few occasions where you have live press conferences, it would be lit. That's maybe 2 days out of the 90 days they spend building the fight. But what I think will supersede that, even though you won't have that great of a press conference for a Williams Zepeda versus Tank, because one of them is going to be English speaking, one of them is going to be Spanish speaking. When they start putting clips together and showing them highlights and making visuals and commercials for that fight, and people start seeing how William Zepeda is a no-nonsense guy who comes straight to his opponents and chops them down. It's like I compare him to old Jersey guy Dwight Muhammad Kawi, the Camden Buzzsaw. Zepeda's pretty much the Mexican Buzzsaw. And we know what Tank does in the ring. Both guys, between the two guys, they've only been the distance 5 times in over 60 fights. So everybody would know or anticipate and expect fireworks in that fight. We know Zepeda's not going to run from Tank. He's not going to be hard to find. That's going to be a concern with Shakur. We've already heard Tank's people and other people talk about it. Is Shakur going to be there for Tank, or is he going to jab once or twice around and run? We don't have that problem with Zepeda. So again, as a Jersey guy who wants to see Shakur in a high-level fight, I respect boxing ability and skills and think, that will be a high-level chess match and, something that us boxing geeks will really enjoy. I think the general public would enjoy Gervonta Tank Davis versus William Zepeda much more. And like I said, I think it generates much more income. I think it brings more eyes. And I think it's going to be more exciting, more entertaining to watch. So, I mean, would I like to see Tank versus Shakur? Like I said, absolutely. But don't be mad at me, fellas, you know what I mean? But I just had to keep it 100. If you look, the Zepeda fight is a bigger fight. You look at Oscar De La Hoya wanting to sign Shakur just a week ago, talking about how he had a plan for Shakur. He wanted to sign Shakur. He looked forward to meeting with Shakur. Then saying he's not interested in signing Shakur. Shakur doesn't, represent the people. He has no plans on making Shakur versus Zepeda. Zepeda has options. Why would he back out of negotiations with Shakur right around the same time Vasyl Lomachenko announces that he doesn't want to fight Tank? Probably because Oscar De La Hoya and Al Heyman are talking behind the scenes on making William Zepeda versus Gervonta Tank Davis. And I just broke down to y'all where it makes perfect business sense. Like I said, not my personal favorite. I do want to see Shakur versus Tank, but I understand the business. I want the young men to get their money. We all know Shakur turned down an extension with Top Rank that would have guaranteed him $3 million a fight, which and said he knows because he knows his worth. Well, I don't know if he gets much more than $3 million a fight against Tank because he doesn't bring a whole lot to the table. And I know Tank is not going to take a pay cut in order for Shakur to get the money he wants. So the only way, for Shakur to get that kind of money he wants is probably going to be able to go get a couple more fights, build his name a little more, and stand on the talk that he says before the fight and actually beat somebody up the way he did Jamel Herring in order to make the fight. And in the meantime, Tank can step off and increase his star power even more by beating another very, very tough, gritty, durable, undefeated Mexican in William Zepeda, which I think would be a fight of the year candidate because, like I said, we all know how explosive Tank is, and Zepeda would be right there from round one to however long it lasts. Both guys over 90% knockout ratio, fireworks. So, Jersey, don't be too mad at me. Knockout. Dean, you know what I mean? It's not personal. I had to keep it 100. The best fight that could be made for Gervonta Tank Davis right now from a business aspect is probably William Zepeda. And the second best fight will probably be Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Unfortunately, business-wise, Shakur may be the third option right now. That's all I have for y'all right now. Until next time, keep your hands up, your chin down, your ass off the floor. Peace.